And we're back with the Great Ace Attorney Games 2023. Hello, Internet. It's time to play the game where we know nothing about law, yet we have to defend ourselves from a murder case. Last time on the Great Ace Attorney, our main character was accused of murdering a professor, a distinguished British professor, thus embarrassing the entire Japanese-British alliance that had recently formed. And I must defend myself against this case, which we've only just recently learned has a conspiracy to conceal the truth by the police chief himself. Well, it's going to be a tough uphill battle. But if I am to become an ace attorney, a great one no less, I'm going to have to succeed here and now. Let us continue the adventure of the Great Departure, Part 2 of the trial. November 22nd, 11:38 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. Defendants, Antechamber 5. It's Kazuma, my best friend, star student, and actual lawyer. That's right. He passed the Japanese equivalent of the bar exam before he even finished law school. This guy, he's going to get a full scholarship to go study in Great Britain. A scholarship that would have been jeopardized had he defended me and we lost the case, which is why I couldn't accept him as my defense attorney, and I had to defend myself. Let's see what he has to say. Excellent work, Ryonosuke. Yes, that is my name, Ryonosuke. That was superb, he says. It was superb, wasn't it? Ugh, my heart was in my mouth the entire time. It was almost unbelievable. I mean, looking at you in there, you were drenched in sweat, your eyes popping, your knees knocking, and you were grinding your teeth. That's not all I was grinding. Whoa, let's keep this PG, folks. It was a grim sight, but before I knew it, inconsistencies in the testimonies. I think you might have a natural talent for being a lawyer. Aw, you think? That's so nice to hear coming from you. Forget it, it's terrifying. If I get through this, I don't ever want to see the inside of a courtroom again. That's how he laughs. Anyway, it looks like we've exposed your phantom lady at last. You're right, we have. We have, Kazuma. Miss Giselle Brett, a student from Great Britain, is she? That's what I was trying to tell everyone from the start, but nobody would listen to me. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone. There was a young woman with him, like I've been saying all along. Yes, you have, haven't you? I might not be overly confident in the courtroom, but my powers of observation are one thing I am sure of. Yes, I can see that. So, about this young gentlewoman. Oh, look, we have a viewer. Hello, viewer. Can you hear me? Is my microphone on? I hope it's on, because I have been performing all of these characters. And if it's not on... thanks to our detective friend. She was hastily escorted away from the scene, it seems. Did you see what happened with that? No, I didn't see any of it. I was just on my way out of the restaurant myself. Then, on the floor next to Dr. Wilson's table, I noticed there was a gun lying on the floor, and after I bent down and picked it up, bang. I didn't have time to think about where the sound of the gunshot had come from. The waiter ran over to me looking as white as a sheet, and he bundled me into some sort of small pantry next to the kitchen. Fast thinking by the detective. He apprehended his suspect without a moment's delay. Yes, and because I was shut in the pantry, I have no idea what happened outside in the dining area. Ah, there you are. Well done, both of you. Oh, it's not him. It's somebody else talking. Who the heck is talking? Oh, it's this guy again. I never gave this guy a voice. This guy showed up. This is one of the professors from the university. He showed up before. He showed up before the trial began, and he warned me not to let Kazuma be my defense attorney. Professor Miko Toba. Well, it seems I was right. The pair of you make an outstanding team. You've exceeded my expectations, I have to say. Yes, it seems you planned this from the start. You arranged things so that I wouldn't be able to act as a lawyer in this trial. Our modern country is still in its infancy, our justice system even more so. Which is why I firmly believe that we need to send our brightest young stars overseas to learn all they can. I wanted to avoid a situation that may have resulted in your study tour to Great Britain being cancelled. In other words, you had no faith in our ability to get me off. Thanks, Gramps. Well, it makes no difference. Lawyer or otherwise, if I'm the kind of man who can't help his best friend avert the worst crisis of his life, I shouldn't waste everyone's time by going to study overseas anyway. What? What are you saying, Kazuma? The whole reason I'm defending myself was so that your tour wouldn't be jeopardized. Yeah, you're saying you're not going to bother to go unless we can get me off? So that's your stance. I was afraid you'd feel that way. Kazuma. Well then, it looks like it all comes down to you, young man. To me? Yes, you need to prove your innocence and uncover what really took place in that restaurant. I must say, I very much want to know the truth. After all, I have a personal connection to this case. Come to think of it, he said the same thing earlier this morning, didn't he? Yeah, he did say the same thing earlier this morning. If you don't mind my asking, Professor, if I'm not being too bold here, just, did you know the victim? I mean, you guys were colleagues, right? You're both professors at the same university. Yes, I did. As you're probably aware, Dr. John H. Wilson was a visiting professor at UMI. That's the name of the university. And it was I who invited him. Oh my goodness. Oh, I see. He wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you. You must feel so embarrassed. I didn't know that before. I'm too busy making sure that my headband blows in the wind, even though there isn't any wind in this sealed chamber. Anyway, you're about to go into battle. The victim was a university professor from Great Britain, and a well-known one at that. Naturally, our government is looking to identify and punish the culprit as quickly as possible to save the embarrassment that they would have for letting a foreign dignitary be murdered on their soil. And let's not forget who we're going up against. The gentlewoman whose involvement our police bureau went to extraordinary lengths to hide. Right. Yes, I'm sure the prosecution will be using every tool at their disposal to quash your case. But I've no doubt that you pair will put up a good fight right to the last. Best of luck. Thank you. Now then, I need you to run an errand at the university at once. There's something I think we may need. Of course. Good luck, Kazuma-sama. Defendant Naruhodo. I don't even know my own name, you guys. I don't even know my own name. Twitch. Yes. Twitch. Court recess is over. Please make your way back inside to the courtroom at once, so we may resume trying to get you hanged for a crime you didn't commit. It's time. Let's get back to it, partner. Let's go in there and deal a decisive blow before those old fossils know what's hit them. Kazuma? What? Thank you, really. What for? Well, if you hadn't said you believed me, then I'm fairly sure I'd already have been found guilty by now. Look, I have faith in you. As a lawyer and as a friend. Coming from you, that means a lot. If I'm found guilty in this trial, he's really going to give up on his dream of studying abroad? That's the kind of true friend he is. So this isn't just my battle anymore. Whoever we're up against, we absolutely cannot afford to lose. All right, then. I'll save the thank yous for after the trial. You could treat me to one of those sukiyaki meals I like from Yume Cafeteria on University Street. Ha! Ha! With an extra large portion, of course. Well, of course. I wouldn't have it any other way. November 22nd, 12:09 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. I can't say that word. Judicature. Judicature? Courtroom 2. The court hereby resumes the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Prosecutor Archie, have you managed to subpoena the witness? Yes, Your Excellency, against all odds. I have done the impossible and found the unfindable woman. And thanks to a certain young stripling, the prosecution is now under rather painful scrutiny from the government. Oh, sorry. Let the government scrutinize. That's their job. It's nothing to worry about. It's highly unlikely that the good relations we forged with Great Britain will emerge from this trial unscathed. Will you still think it's nothing to worry about when the new treaty breaks down and our nation founders? Again, terribly sorry. If the friendship between our nations is really so fragile, then the treaty isn't worth the paper it's written on. Besides, you really have nothing to worry about, Ryunosuke. You didn't do anything wrong. If anything, this whole trial is the thing that's wrong. What do you mean? A secret trial? Anxiety over some foreign government's opinions? A bungled investigation? Missing witnesses? Is this what our nation's justice system is? Is this the Supreme Court of Japan or of England? Shut up, you jumped up rookie boy! You and your friend know nothing! Nothing of the situation our nation finds itself in. By aligning ourselves with the great world power, we'll become strong. Diplomacy has never been more critical. Steady political maneuvering is what will secure our futures. I won't deny any of that. And I also won't deny that I'm no expert. I'm just a student, and one who could arguably study harder too. But standing here now in our Supreme Court, there is one thing that I feel very strongly. A country that fails to uphold the truth in its justice system is a country with no future at all. Well said, Ryunosuke, despite the wide-eyed look of terror. You little brats! Thank you, counsel. This court is the pinnacle of our nation's justice system and exists solely for the pursuance of truth. With that in mind, this trial will now resume with the next witness taking the stand. The visiting student from Great Britain, Miss Giselle Brett. Yes, Your Excellency! Aha. There she is. Well, what a delight it is to welcome such a fine gentlewoman to Japan, and from such a distant land. Tea! Someone bring English tea! In England, no discussions take place without tea! Is that true? No idea. So, yes. Could we possibly trouble you to state your name and occupation for the court? Of course. My name is Satoru Hosonoga. You know that already. I have been working undercover as the head waiter at Le Carnaval. Yes, we know all about you already, you buffoon. You're the reason that we're in this stupid mess, concealing the truth and all. You're a conspiracy. Shut up in your face. Inspector Hosonaga, where are your manners? In England, it's always ladies first. Is that true? No idea. More importantly, a little early today you said something to me. You said your powers of observation are the one thing you're sure of. Oh, yes, I think I did, didn't I? Yet your description for this amazing sight was simply a woman. Sorry, Ryunosuke, but powers of observation aside, your powers of description are sorely lacking. Guilty. So, dear lady, once again, if we may trouble you for your name and occupation, please. Why the mask, lady? What? Is she speaking in a different language, or is she speaking in the same language but with a dialect so garbled that we can't understand it? Are we meant to be assuming that this court is happening in Japanese and she's speaking English, but it's translated to English? The Japanese parts are translated to English, and the English part is translated to gibberish. Is that what's supposed to be going on? I mean, this is a Japanese courtroom, and most of the characters are Japanese. I guess I would assume that it is taking place in Japanese. I hadn't thought about it. They're as speechless as I was. I'm terribly sorry, dear lady, but... What? The lady says her name is Giselle Brett. She comes from London, England. She's a visiting research student currently enrolled in UMay University's medical faculty. Oh my, what a rare treat to hear the dulcet tones of the delightful language of the British people. I'm afraid I don't understand a word you said, but it was as beautiful as a hummingbird's song. As far as I can tell. The detective is translating her words faithfully enough. Yes, I agree. Ha ha ha. You'll obviously do fine in England, Kazuma. Her English doesn't rattle you at all, does it? Nor you. You've clearly been paying attention in your English classes, Ryunosuke. Actually, I didn't understand a word. The court thanks the beautiful lady for taking the stand. Now, if we may trouble you to confirm something, Miss Brett. 3 days ago at a restaurant called Le Carnaval, a grim murder took place. The court has been led to believe that you were dining there with the victim, Dr. Wilson, at the time. Is that correct? This is funny. She says yes. This could take some time. So even though she's studying here in Japan, she can't speak any Japanese? Well, that confirms it. We are definitely all speaking Japanese. I should have known, but it didn't occur to me that it didn't occur to me until just then. That's apparently English. She'd like to apologize for disappearing from the scene. She says that she was due to make a presentation at the university, so she had to leave immediately. Interesting. When you're the one who engineered her escape. I was just following special orders from the Bureau. Well now, dear lady, would you be so kind as to cast your eyes over this photographic print? Seeing as you were so unfortunately present at the scene of the crime, could it be that your resplendent eyes caught sight of the wicked perpetrator, perhaps? Apparently, it was very frightening and a sorrowful sight. Do you mean to say? Yes. It would appear the lady did witness the crime. The very moment when the accused, standing right there in this courtroom, shot the victim in cold blood. Order in the court. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? Here we have an absolute conclusive witness statement. Well, it looks like it's clear now. Clear who our real enemy is. Unfortunately, I will have to ask you to formally testify, if you please. Kindly tell the court exactly the exact nature of this frightening and sorrowful sight you described. Time for some witness testimony. Let's tell everyone I'm playing this game. I've traveled. What y'all up to this afternoon? I've traveled back in time to Victorian Japan to try and get myself acquitted from being charged with a ghastly murder I did not commit. Me. Alright, let's see what she has to say. I had arranged to meet for a slightly late luncheon with Dr. Wilson that day. The professor was unable to eat, so I ordered for myself only a beef steak. After a while, the accused came over to greet the professor, and they got into a fierce argument. Then, not long afterwards, the accused took the professor's gun and shot him right before my eyes. I don't carry a gun myself, so obviously, I couldn't have been the culprit.
Yes!
This is a condemning testimony indeed. Yes, no, I didn't have any kind of argument with the professor at all.
Objection!
Quiet, you filthy wretch! Look at you, you black-hearted blackguard, and look at this snow-white angel. I'm sure even a dark-minded scoundrel like you can't imagine whose words the court is going to believe. You're still making the same mistakes, Ryonosuke. You mustn't blurt out when you're goaded like that. That's a lesson you need to learn. But he's so annoying. Of course, I was at the scene as well. I took statements from this lady and the two witnesses who testified before and reported back to the bureau. It was decided that Miss Brett was not involved, so I let her go. And the testimonies of the last two witnesses were completely worthless, however. Well, even so. On the day in question, the lady was wearing the same outfit as she is today. As you can see, there is nowhere about her person where she could conceal a firearm. I would think she could hide a gun almost anywhere in that outfit if she wanted to. Unless and until the precise location where the witnesses to have hidden a weapon can be shown, this is moot. I mean, her hat? There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. You have a giant hat, lady. You also have a giant skirt thing, butt thing. Whatever that's called. Those are the witness's own words on the matter. Ugh, that's ridiculous. If only I was allowed to lift up her dress, I could prove it. What? If only I was allowed to lift up her dress, I could prove it. Wow. I'll take words I never expected I would say live on a Twitch stream for 500, Alex. Goddamn game. Who wrote this shit? Don't think about doing anything rash, Ryonosuke. But I didn't fire the gun. I picked up. There must have been another gun there that day. The gun was fired. The gun that killed the professor was shot after I found and picked up a gun off the ground. There must have been a second gun. You're right about that, which means this lady was hiding a gun somewhere. Yes, that's what we have to prove now. To do so, we will need to pull her testimony apart. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. I had arranged to meet for a slightly late luncheon with Dr. Wilson that day.
Yes!
After 2 p.m., in fact. That's really quite a late lunch, isn't it?
Objection!
You don't keep up with the latest fashions from Britannia, do you? Late luncheons are on vogue. Isn't that right? No. Wrong. Hey, I understood that. A decisive English no has quite a sting to it. The gentlewoman is currently working in the victim's research laboratory, it seems. So it was apparently a daily occurrence that they would lunch together. But on the day in question, the victim had another appointment at the clinic first. Yes, which we can prove from the medical report that was submitted as evidence earlier. That's right. Miss Brett and the victim went to lunch following the victim's treatment, which is why it was so late. Yes, that all makes perfect sense.
Such wonderful logic. What a shining example of English intelligence this fine gentlewoman is.
So you both arrived at the restaurant. What happened next? Professor was unable to eat, so I ordered for myself only a beefsteak, yes?
Yes!
Yes. He was unable to eat, you say? And that was because he just had a tooth removed at Hoda Clinic, correct? That's right. You're supposed to actually check with the witness before answering, Mr. Translator? Yeah, what the hell? I'm asking her questions, come on! Was Miss Brett aware of that fact? It seems so, yes. She'd heard that the professor was to have some dental treatment. So that would mean... Then it was you who ate the steak pictured here. Is that right, Miss Brett? That's right, yes. Again, Hosonaga, I want her answer, not your answer. The print you have there shows the table exactly as it was left after the horrifying events. Exactly as it was left? Dear me, what a harrowing experience! To have traveled to a distant island on the far side of the world and be embroiled in such a tragic incident. Have no fear, my dear lady, I swear I will crush the evil fiend that has subjected you to this terrible plight! So the victim, Dr. Wilson, had nothing to eat or drink at all. That's right, other than some carbonated water. Just water. Yes. The professor was unable to eat, but he had been given permission to drink water. So it appears that the diners toasted their lunch with a glass of water each. They each raised a glass of carbonated water. What do you think, Ryonosuke, about the witness's last statement? I think it's meaningful. There's one glass. There's one glass. Not two glasses, one glass. And it's at the steak table. Oh, did you see him look at his hand? Oh, my slap, it wasn't forceful enough. Oh, I need to be stronger. That last statement of yours, Miss Brett, has a profound bearing on this case.
Well, how fascinating. Do tell us what this profound bearing. Tell us.
Well, first I need to figure out what the profound bearing is. The significance of the statement will become apparent when the time is right. The defense calls for the witness's last statement to be formally added to the testimony. Well, sidestepped, counsel. Very well, Miss Brett. Kindly repeat what you just said to be added to your official testimony. Gladly, she said. That was brilliant, Kazuma. I'm going to remember that one. Which one? The significance will become apparent when the time is right. I could really use that phrase. I'd hope there are some more useful tips you're picking up from this experience than that, Ryunosuke. I ordered a beefsteak for myself, and the professor and I said cheers over a glass of carbonated water. That's the relevant statement. That's for sure the thing we want to tear her a new asshole on. But I want to cross-examine her about all this stuff.
Yes!
I never got into an argument with the professor. All I did when I noticed him was go over to say hello. Please don't get angry with me. No, I was directing that retort at you. It was meant for the lady next to you. You're just the translator. But anyway, as I said, I did not argue with the professor. I'm afraid your words are in vain. Sorry? Miss Brett does not appear to speak Japanese.
No, of course not. Japanese is such a cumbersome language anyway. English is the future. We must all supiku ingurishu.
I wonder if the prosecution will feel that way forever, or only in the presence of a beautiful woman. Well, that beautiful woman is telling blatant lies with a completely straight face. I have to find something that will unravel her testimony, no matter how seemingly insignificant it may be. Anyway, it seems that after the argument, the accused briefly returned to his own seat. That part ties in with what you said, doesn't it? Yes, I still had some coffee to drink. And the next time you got up after that was when I'd finished my coffee and stood up to leave. Then, not long afterwards, the accused took the professor's gun and shot him right before my eyes.
Yes!
Like I said, I did not shoot that gun. And like I said, there's no point in repeating that assertion over and over again. Well, I wasn't expecting to be attacked by my own side.
Nevertheless, defendant, you can't deny that when the shot rang out in the restaurant, you had a gun in your hand.
Well, yes, that's true, but...
Ooh, my hand!
But all I did was pick up the gun I saw on the floor next to the professor as I was leaving the restaurant. In fact, yes, there was someone much closer to the victim than me at that time. The highly suspicious lady in the...
That will do, you dirty, rotten scoundrel!
Dirty? I showered this morning.
Your baseless accusations could very well cause an international incident, boy!
It seems to me that your accusation is just as baseless as ours.
Tish, what nonsense!
The lady is merely stating what she saw.
And this is already an international incident as far as I'm concerned anyway.
I don't carry a gun myself, so obviously I couldn't have been the culprit. Well, you know, about that. It's all very well saying that, but can you prove it? Absolutely. I verified it personally. Just how exactly did you verify her inability to stash a gun on her personally? You verified it? Yes. Immediately after the incident, I checked to make sure the lady was not carrying a weapon. I distinctly remember her saying, "I'm not." But that's all you did? You just asked her if she's carrying a weapon and took her word when she said she's not? Surely you carried out a physical search, Inspector. Huh. No. Why on earth not?
The Honorable English gentlewoman clearly stated that she did not possess a weapon!
There was obviously no need for any further probing into the matter. Probing. You really had to use that word? Or there was no permission given for any further probing into the matter, perhaps.
Think what you will. But if you're going to continue with this preposterous claim that the refined lady was concealing a firearm, the prosecution demands that you support your assertion with facts.
In other words, he wants evidence. The lady wishes to point out that, of course, she wanted to stay and assist with the investigation, but she was in a hurry to give a presentation at the university, so she was compelled to leave. Not to mention the fact that your office had told you to get the woman out of there. Not get her out of there, I just urged her to leave. The lady would like to point out that she in no way meant to run away from the scene of a crime, which is why she is only too happy to cooperate and testify here in court today, of course.
Unlike a certain student who refuses to admit when the game is up. You could at least have the courtesy to pay attention when I'm goading you.
So she's maintaining that you got into an argument with the professor at the end of which you shot him, which is an out-and-out, totally unfounded lie. Still, her statement is very compelling. After all, she's an elegant, refined, young, and beautiful gentlewoman from Great Britain. In stark contrast to you, dressed from head to toe in a dull black school uniform. I'm dressed exactly the same as you are, except for flapping red ribbons and a stupid sword. Well, anyway, this is our only chance to expose her testimony as the fiction that it is. If we can't do that, the trial's over. Even you, with your thick skin, must be able to feel the murderous looks you're getting from around the room. Only too well. I feel half dead already. And the fact that I can't see a single inconsistency in her testimony isn't making me feel any better either. Well, don't sell yourself short. I mean, I'm playing you, and I can see inconsistencies, so therefore you can. The first thing to do is press her on any of her statements that seem even slightly off to you. Do that, and an opening will present itself, I promise you. I need to expose the true face of this exotic foreigner that's hiding behind the mask. That's what I should be aiming for in this cross-examination.
Yes!
So both you and the professor drank this carbonated water, did you? Yes. Being the waiter, I poured the 2 glasses myself. I clearly remember doing so. Thanks, Hosonaga. I mean, I was asking the woman, but it's nice of you to chime in and incriminate yourself with lies. Except you're actually a detective. Yeah, that's right. And the beefsteak, that was for you, Miss Brett? The lady says that she'd heard it was not customary to eat beef here until Japan opened its doors to the world. Yes, that's true. What a frightful place, is the lady's opinion. And I've heard it's not customary to eat sashimi in Great Britain. Now that's frightful. Every country has its own cuisine. As long as people have food to eat, what does it matter what it is? True, come to think of it, the first time I tried carbonated water, it was much more of a shock than the first time I tried beef. But anyway, back to the witness's statement. Somehow, I feel like there's something out of place in what she's saying. We need to pounce on even the slightest thing now, because you never know what might lead us to our goal. Our goal of turning this trial around. Understood, Kazuma. Let's go back a second. You both attest that there were two glasses, the woman and the waiter. Well, about that. I only see one glass in this photographic evidence here. That's it. Let me just confirm something, please. It's to do with this photographic print. Just a short while ago, you spoke of this print showing the victim's table at the crime scene. You said, and I quote, that it is exactly as it was left. That is correct, the lady says. Oh, my hand! Well, it's odd. Very odd. Dear me, what's odd is the defense's inability to express itself. I hate that guy. Rinosuke, what is it about the print that looks odd to you? Well, obviously, it's the cheers. The cheers? Yes, the place where everybody knows your name. Miss Brett just told us that she and the professor said cheers over a glass of water. But if that's true, there should be two glasses on the table, not one. You're quite right, Counsel. There's only one glass pictured here.
Are we supposed to be impressed by this nitpicking over my minutiae? What possible difference does the presence of or absence of a glass make on the case?
Objection!
Minutia, you say? Could it be that the detective here removed a glass from the table to conceal the lady's presence? Of course not. I would never do something so reckless to tamper with the scene of a crime and remove evidence. Oh, my hand! But there should have been two glasses on the table. Or are you going to try to tell me that you can clink with only one? You're quite right. I certainly took two glasses to the table. Inspector, what did the lady say? It would seem that it was Miss Brett who took the glass from the table. What? It was all so terrifying, everything that happened. I panicked and thought I should try to hide the fact that I'd been there at all, she's saying. Good gracious! Sorry. Sorry? I'm quite sorry. Now, as I assured the court before, this is of no consequence at all. Oh, please. We must remember that this student had just murdered this lady's luncheon companion before her very eyes. Who could blame her for concealing a glass or two in her state of disarray? That's absurd!
Oh, really? So do we take it that you are now going to accuse this vulnerable, young, and beautiful woman of mischief?
I can think of another word that starts with M that is more appropriate here. Murder, maybe? And also, what the heck does the fact that she's beautiful have anything to do with whether or not she's guilty? Are you saying that beautiful people do not commit crimes and only ugly people do? What? How could you be so damn old and have no wisdom whatsoever about the state of the world? That's what I want to know. No. This can't be put down to mischief. I'd like to know exactly how the lady took the glass from the scene. It would seem that she slipped it into a small handbag she was carrying. Oh, really? Was it a handbag large enough to carry a concealed firearm? A handbag, you say? Yes, Your Excellency. A small, handheld pouch, commonly carried by a well-to-do woman in England. So, the beautiful lady has very graciously explained how and why she removed the glass from the scene. Now, therefore, it is no longer of consequence to this case, and we can stop wasting the court's time and try this buffoon as a murderer. However, the fact remains that this glass has absolutely no bearing on the case. I just said that. Look at me, predicting what they're going to say. Hilarious. This student has been trying to confuse the court with logical reasoning. But in the end, it comes down to nothing. No more pretentious accusations. You've wasted enough time already. Indeed. The lady has offered a satisfactory explanation as to why she removed this glass. I think henceforth, we can consider the matter to have no bearing on the case. Counsel for the defense, are you in agreement? Well, I don't know, really. If you want to pursue the matter further, you're going to need to show that it has some deeper significance. Yes, you're right. So she took the glass away in her handbag. If there is a deeper significance there, it's the handbag, doofus. Wait! The lady put the glass in her handbag, you say? Yes. Do try to keep up. It's already been explained to the court that all English gentlewomen carry handbags for small items. Small items like a firearm? Let me see, a little while ago, Miss Brett stated the following. There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. But what she forgot to mention was her handbag. Oh, my hand! In which it would be perfectly possible to conceal a gun. You're right! Well done, partner. I had a feeling you'd pick up on that, too. No, what are you insinuating, you vile blackguard? It's really very simple. The gunshot was heard when the defendant picked up the gun from the restaurant floor. As he didn't fire that gun, we can deduce there must have been another firearm at the scene. The true murder weapon, if you will. You can't seriously be suggesting... Inspector Hosonaga. Yes? Did you, or did you not, search Miss Giselle Brett's handbag on the day of the murder? No, sir, I did not. As I thought. In other words, another gun, the one that was actually used to kill the professor, could have been hidden in Miss Brett's handbag. No! Order! What is the meaning of this, Inspector? The meaning of what, Professor Archie? Prosecutor Archie. Sorry, too many professors in this story.
Why on earth did you not have the lady open her handbag and show you the contents at the time? Thanks to your bludgeoning incompetence, now she has to endure these uncomfortable accusations.
Brilliant work, partner. Now we have the chance to expose the real woman behind the mask. Do you think so, Kazuma?
I'm gonna die right here in this courtroom.
I have the plague. Well, what a sorry situation. Clearly you have no faith in the police. Huh? As I said, I did not search the lady's handbag after the shooting, simply because it was unnecessary. Unnecessary in what way? I ought to thank the student lawyer, really. I have a piece of evidence here that I completely forgotten about. I had completely forgotten about. Until you reminded me. This photographic print. This print is of a photograph that I thought would be prudent to take immediately after the shooting. As you can see, it clearly shows Miss Brett's handbag. Well, I never. And you can see right through to what's inside. The sides of the handbag are translucent. That's right. Apparently, meshwork bags like these are the height of fashion in London at the moment. So the contents are clearly visible. Exactly. So there was no need to search the lady's handbag. If there had been a gun inside, it would have been immediately obvious. As you can see, there's nothing to imply Miss Brett's guilt here. I go back to that hat. It's even bigger than a handbag. Thank you for helping to prove that, Naruto-san. We wouldn't have even thought to bring it up had you not put a light on it. Oh no, what have I done? Order! Order! Inspector Hosonaga, you will submit that print as evidence at once. Certainly, Your Excellency. The photograph of the handbag has been entered into the court record. A photograph taken by Hosonaga-san after the incident occurred. It shows Miss Brett's handbag on the chair by the victim's table. I think you've had long enough to cross-examine the witness, counsel. The court has now been shown considerable evidence. As for the photographic print just submitted into the court record appears to have no further significance, I am satisfied that there is no longer any room for doubt in this matter, and I must make my ruling. Yes, it's true. We proved an inconsistency in her story. There were not two glasses, even though she said there was. Well, now we have photographic proof of what happened to the second glass, and there was no gun in that bag. Well,
indeed, there's only one logical conclusion to make. That the pathetic rookie slumped over the bench before us is the only possible perpetrator of this crime.
No. Just when I thought I was beginning to turn things around, I'm in a worse situation than I was at the start. Even Kazuma looks dejected. Kazuma? I'm sorry, Ryunosuke. Now that the cross-examination of the witness is over, there's no way to force the trial to continue. What? You mean this is it?
Tish! I must say, you put up quite a fight for a rookie student, but the weak I meet while the strong eat. You were wasting your time. There is no way to defeat true justice. The fact that you can chew on onto your heart's content from the inside of your cell. A fact you can chew on to your heart's content from the inside of your cell.
This can't be happening. This can't be happening. Am I really going to be found guilty of a crime that I didn't commit? And Kazuma, his dream of going to study in the Great Britain will slip through his fingers. Kazuma. What? Is there really no chance now of turning this trial around? You heard the judge. There's nothing about that last photograph the detective produced that we can contest. Which means there's no basis on which we can argue for the trial to continue. But what if there was? It looks like there's a tattoo of a bull, a ram's head, on the victim's right wrist. That must be significant for some reason. Because I see nothing else here that I can draw attention to. So that has to be, that's the only clue I'm being given, so it has to be a significant one. But why is it significant? Very well. I will now proceed immediately to the ruling. It seems we'll be able to report to the British government on time after all. That smug little... Even Kazuma's starting to sweat, and he has a headband of superior sweating absorption. Also, I seem to have a wrist guard. When did I always have that? When did I get that? Ryonosuke Naruhodo, having considered all of the evidence and... Boom. Wait, Your Excellency. What was he saying? Having considered all the evidence placed before me, I hereby find you... Wait, Your Excellency. Ryonosuke! I don't think you can rule on this case yet. Objection! This amateurishness is getting tedious. When His Excellency deems that the trial is over, he gives his ruling. That is the most basic protocol of the courtroom.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, but... Your Excellency, just a moment ago, I don't think I had that wrist guard before. Your Excellency, just a moment ago, you said this. As the photographic print just submitted appears to have no further significance, there is no longer any room for doubt in this matter, and I must make my ruling. Now, that means that if there was a problem with the evidence, some significant detail, I mean, then ruling on the case at this time would be premature and out of the question.
Objection!
This is blatant straw clutching. Look at this photographic print. All it shows is the handbag of the gentlewoman was carrying on the day in question. There can be no problem with this evidence.
You'd better know what you're doing, Ryonosuke. I understand your objection, counsel. Certainly, the new evidence submitted by the detective has not undergone the court's scrutiny. However, I fail to see how we can glean any new information from this handbag.
Ah, my thoughts exactly. Really, the prosecution is becoming tired of this rookie's desperate wheezes.
It's your desperate wheezes I'm tired of. Yes, I'm desperate, but this isn't a wheeze. There's something about this photograph which just doesn't seem right. If only I could put my finger on it. Very well. I will grant the defense one final opportunity.
What?
But be warned that if I am unsatisfied by your response here, the trial will be over with immediate effect. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Excellency. So, take another look at the photographic print Inspector Hosonaga submitted before. You will identify for the court where in this print we see the significant detail to which you have alluded. Well, I know what it is. It is obviously... Uh-oh. Maybe it's not this. Well, I gotta try.
Yes!
Look at this here. There's a very unusual mark on the victim's wrist. That is true. It looks almost like a burn of some description.
Objection!
Dear me, I was pondering what new pieful you would come out with. A burn, you say, on the victim's wrist? Clearly that has nothing whatsoever to do with the magnificent lady's handbag.
Yes, that is a burn mark. You're right. Go on, Inspector. The police coroner also noticed it when he was performing the post-mortem examination. It was deemed unrelated to the cause of death, so he didn't note it in his report.
What did I tell you? In any case, we have no idea when the victim suffered this burn, do we? And no possible way of knowing either. The more I look at it, the more I find myself...
Oh, it's the judge talking, not the prosecutor.
Hi, Chansey. You good boy.
The more I look at it, the more I find myself intrigued by the curious shape of this mark. However, as Prosecutor Achi points out, intrigued or not, unless a firm connection to the case can be shown, I cannot allow any further time to be spent on the precise details of this burn. Excuse me, Your Excellency. It would seem Miss Brett has a lunch appointment with the dean and other university staff. She would like to know if she may be excused from the stand now.
Oh, of course, dear lady. We shan't hold you up any longer. I'm quite sure His Excellency is about to give his final ruling anyway.
What's your thinking on this, Ryunosuke? Fill me in. Do you believe this burn does have something to do with the case? To be honest, I'm not really sure. The prosecution's right. I am grasping at straws, but if I don't keep pushing, then it's all over. So I was thinking I should keep digging and digging in the hope that I might uncover something useful. If I don't keep digging, I lose anyway, so... Yes, you're right. I am? If we can just link that burn to the case. If we can do that, we might be able to prise this shutting door back open again.
Just give up, Counsel. You can't possibly hope to do that.
Indeed. I'm afraid that without evidence, I can't allow you to pursue what is little more than conjecture. But if we had evidence that irrefutably linked the burn on the victim's wrist to the case, then you would allow it? I would, yes. After all, if this burn is significant, the fact that they concealed the picture of the burn would be even more significant. proves what that burn really means. So then, the defense will now present its evidence to the court. The evidence that demonstrates an inextricable connection between the victim's burn and this trial. If you lose your pin, they don't accept you as a UMA student in the university. You may not come in, they say. Of course, you can get a new pin made if you can just tell them your number. I've actually lost mine twice. Number. Self. Well, I do have 5 guesses, and there's only 7 pieces of evidence. Wait! There's the ram head, the bull. He burned himself on the hot plate. He burned himself on the plate. If he burned himself on the plate, then this was his seat, not hers. And if this was his seat, not hers, then this was his meal. And if this was his meal, then he didn't go to the dentist? I don't understand. But this is obviously the evidence, so even though I don't understand it, I'm going to present it.
Yes!
What's this, Counsel? Yet another print? Yes, Your Excellency. I believe photographic prints are an amazing invention. Right, this takes place right after the invention of the photograph. It's brand new. Cutting-edge technology. The courtrooms haven't quite figured out how to use them yet. I am being innovative. When we humans look at a scene, we miss things. But in a photograph, things we may have overlooked at the time are recorded forevermore.
Do hurry up, rookie. What are you trying to say? To inconvenience this poor lady any further really would be quite inexcusable.
Actually, we may need you to stay with us a little longer, if you don't mind, Miss Brett. You see, it's very clearly visible on this other photograph. How did the victim come to have an unusually shaped burn on his wrist? The reason is recorded here forevermore. What? How?
Objection!
You can't fool me with your little bluffs, boy! If that's your game, then let's see how it plays out. Show the court exactly what you mean.
What is it in this photograph that explains the reason for the victim's burn? Well, this right here.
Yes!
The beefsteak?
Actually, the point is the metal plate the steak was served on. The plate?
Your Excellency, are you all right?
As you can see, there's an emblem on the plate. I would guess it's some sort of trademark of La Carnival. This emblem on the plate and the victim's burn are exactly the same shape. Ryonosuke, you're a genius. You're spot on. Which means the victim must have suffered this burn while he was present at the restaurant.
Objection!
But even if that is the case, we can't know if it happened on the day in question or not. It could have been the day before or the day before that. It most likely happened at some other unrelated time.
Well,
Objection!
Sadly, Prosecutor Achi, the chances of that are extremely slim. Thanks.
Why?
The outline of the burn is clearly discernible. Such a serious injury would have caused quite a commotion in the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector Hosonaga? I can't imagine having missed such a terrible disaster, certainly.
But...
I would say, looking at the picture of the wound, that it wasn't suffered very long ago. And although it's not a particularly large burn, it's extremely well defined, as the defense just pointed out. This was no mild burn, that's for sure. Can you be more specific, Inspector? Well, let's see. If the plate was at around 90 degrees centigrade, a burn like that would have taken around 3 seconds. It's inconceivable that the victim wouldn't have let out a scream of pain then. I've been investigating at the restaurant for several weeks already, but I've not heard anyone scream at all. As the head waiter of Le Carnival, I can testify to that without hesitation.
But you're a detective, not a waiter!
Yes!
Huh. There you have it. Something isn't right here. As the detective said, anyone who burnt themselves on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds, sustained contact, would scream in pain. There's no question of that. And yet, Inspector Hosonaga never heard the professor scream, not on that day or any before it. That's right. And the strange thing is, on the day he was shot, I didn't hear him cry out either. What are you suggesting? Well, if the professor had carelessly laid his wrist on the plate for anything like 3 seconds that day, that would be beyond careless, I think, Counsel. Then the rest of us in the restaurant, myself, the sergeant, and the old antique dealer, all of us would without any question have heard him scream. Wouldn't you agree, Prosecutor Archie?
Well, yes, I suppose.
So the question is, why didn't a single person hear Dr. Wilson scream? I almost didn't believe it. Ryunosuke, do you think? Yes. The answer is obvious, but can it really be true? I never dreamt we'd arrive at a conclusion like this, but I'm starting to think that maybe we've been led into a terrible trap. There's only one explanation I can think of to make sense of this apparent impossibility. On the day in question, when he suffered the burn to his wrist, Dr. Wilson hadn't noticed the burn, was asleep, was already deceased. No man could remain silent while his wrist was burning on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds. That's clearly impossible, apart from in one particular situation. Counsel, are you suggesting? I am. Yes, it's only possible if the man was already dead.
Oh, already?
Dead?
Huh?
Knowing what we know now, it's the only possible explanation. When the beefsteak was brought to Dr. Wilson's table that day, the professor was already dead.
That's madness!
No. This is Sparta. Order, please, Counsel. Explain this absurd notion at once. The victim was killed by a gunshot.
That's right! That's absolutely right, Your Excellency. Even the coroner confirms it. This is just another ridiculous ploy by the rookie student, but clearly he has no grasp of the facts.
Objection!
No, Prosecutor Archie. It's you who has no grasp of the facts.
I beg your pardon?
As soon as it became apparent that the victim had suffered that burn while at the restaurant, this whole case was turned upside down. Or have you not grasped that yet? Your Excellency, the court must hear from this witness again. If it's true, as we now believe, that the victim was already dead before the gunshot was heard, it's highly likely that Miss Brett knows something about it. Incredible! I certainly didn't anticipate this twist of events. I'm sorry to say, Miss Brett, that you will have to forget your luncheon engagement.
But, Your Excellency...
The justice system in our country may be in its infancy, but rest assured all reasonable doubt must be dispelled before I am prepared to pass judgment. Thank you, Your Excellency. What was that smile? Yes, of course. I mean, I'd be delighted to help.
She speaks Japanese?
That's right. The cursive is English. The straight letters are Japanese. Especially if it helps relations between my country and yours, Curtsy.
Whoa, whoa. Ah, Miss Brett, you speak Japanese?
Well, of course I do. I am studying in your country, after all.
But then why have you been speaking through an interpreter until now?
My mother tongue, the Queen's English, is the most refined and elegant language in the world. As a gentlewoman, I try to avoid speaking in your vulgar tones as much as possible.
What?
I can't believe this. But it seems the men in this land possess none of the chivalrous virtues of English gentlemen, so I can see that I shall have to lower myself to communicating with you all on your own level.
You are the epitome of a true English gentlewoman. We are truly honored by this lavish consideration you so graciously afford us.
I see. In that case, Miss Brett, I will now ask you to testify in your own words about the events leading up to the death of the victim, Dr. Wilson. So, we're finally going to hear her own words on the matter. Things are getting interesting, Ryonosuke.
Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrist like that. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. As far as I've heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death besides the gunshot. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me.
You poisoned his water!
But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably would pick up on it anyway.
Yes! Yes!
Well, I can't!
Yes!
As you testified before, you were drinking carbonated water, is that right?
Dr. Wilson was only permitted a drink of water. Why he ordered a drink?
Hey, sir.
Yes!
British Empire. The police store everything found at a crime scene for later examination. But in this country, you investigate once, and that's the end of it. Isn't that so?
Quite right. The Carnival is open for business as usual today, just days after the incident.
Exactly. Which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital evidence may be lost.
Vital evidence like the fact that this guy keeps coughing up blood?
Doesn't even occur to your naive detectives to try to preserve the crime scene. I'm trying to be as tactful about this as I can, you understand.
Ah, killer blow! The lady is as formidable as she is beautiful. Will you go on a date with me?
What a dumbass. Amazing. He's actually admitting our police may be flawed. Perhaps Prosecutor Achi is finally starting to see sense. I very much doubt that. Still, there's something about what Miss Brett just said. There was a moment before when something didn't seem quite right.
Yes! Wait. Wait. Excuse me. Attention!
Say that you don't know.
I can't find anything out of place. So this carbonated water is the last drink Dr. Wilson ever had. It looks like there's a little left in the bottle, though it's just plain water now. You know, I've been sweating so much, I'm absolutely parched. I'll just have a sip of this to keep me going. No, Ryunosuke, you can't do that! For one thing, that's evidence. You can't go drinking evidence! Oh no, you're right. We don't know what might be inside, do we? You never cease to amaze me, Ryunosuke, in more ways than one. I wonder, could there be anything in this water? What's the matter? You've gone quite quiet all of a sudden. I think I might have just worked something out. An interesting possibility.
Yes!
What is this, the bottle of water? Actually, there's one method of killing a man without leaving a trace that comes to mind. Obviously, I'm referring to poison.
Poison?
On the day of his death, we know that Dr. Wilson drank from this bottle of carbonated water. Could it be that there was poison inside? Could it be that the professor actually died after taking a sip from his glass? Order, order, order! And on that day, who was sitting at the same table as the professor and able to slip the poison into his drink? There's only one person who could possibly have done it. Jazale Brett, it was you!
Objection!
This is outrageous! To suggest such a thing without a scrap of evidence. You little rookie imbecile! Have you even considered the delicate situation our country now finds itself in? Have you forgotten that we have only just signed on an accord with friendship with the British Empire? Have you even the vaguest inkling that your rash accusations could jeopardize the entire treaty?
Objection!
This is not a political arena. This is a trial to determine one individual's guilt with respect to one crime.
What?
The fact that this woman is British makes no difference. We are here to determine the truth. Ahem. If I may,
I will silence you forever for this disgraceful...
Shut up! Wonderful. It is you who should be silent. Yes, really.
Of course. Dear lady.
Where did that come from? She just snapped. I'm afraid I may have spoken unfairly before. I offer my most humble apologies. I'm sorry, my lady. To what are you referring? I described your police force as inferior. But no matter how inferior they may be, you still investigated this particular point thoroughly, I believe. The bottle, I mean, Inspector. Whether it contained poison or not. Of course. You did? You did? Have you forgotten what my guiding principle is already? I strive for a flawless investigation every time. I don't believe it. Naturally, we tested the inside of the bottle and its contents. And? What did you find, Inspector? I ordered tests for every toxin that's available in this country at the present time. We can find no trace of poison of any description in the bottle of carbonated water, Your Excellency. What? Are you sure? The tests were meticulously carried out by the chief coroner himself. No. No! I'm very grateful to all you Japanese. She's so racist. You've successfully established my complete innocence in this horrid affair. Thank you.
But of course, dear lady, the pleasure was all ours. And by ours, I mean mine. Also, will you go on a date with me?
I was so sure. This can't be right. Everything falls into place if he was poisoned. Thank you, counsel. I think that cross-examination has clarified everything. As the prosecution have asserted, a shot to the chest from this gun is the only conceivable cause of death. Furthermore, the accused, who by his own admission was holding this weapon, is the only possible culprit. I'm done for. The court wishes to apologize for the great inconvenience this has caused you, Miss Brett. Oh no, I'm just glad the matter is resolved. Before proceeding, I must ask the counsel for the defense. Do you have any further new evidence to present the court at this point? Kazuma? I'm sorry, Ryunosuke. I have nothing more. Well, if you'll excuse me now, I really must be leaving.
Hold it!
What? 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 Huh? Please wait. Isn't that? What is the meaning of this? Forgive me for intruding on court proceedings, Your Excellency. Susato Miko Taba, Judicial Assistant to the Defense. Miko Taba? In my darkest hour, with nowhere left to go, she appeared like a bolt of lightning. And in her hand, she carried a small package wrapped in a furoshiki cloth. Watching me struggle with Japanese words is the real cause for entertainment of this Twitch stream. But, unfortunately, if you want to see me struggle with more Japanese words, you'll have to wait until next time. Because as the game just said, to be continued. You'll have to wait for part 3. Which I will stream some other time. Because my poor voice is tired. Every time I have to do the prosecutor's voice, I feel strained.
I'm sorry that I speak like this. It's too hard to do an impression of me, is it?
Yes, it is. The Trial, Part 3. Until next time. Thanks for whoever joined in. This was fun.